Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to another edition of Dr. Sound's Academy. Depending on where you are in the country, we appreciate you joining us. Dr. Sound is not able to make it, so my name is Don. I am the Regional Sales Manager for Ontario, and I will be talking to you today about our new Matrix Amplifier series, the MA series. When TOA was coming up with this product, they were very interested in hearing what the customers were thinking, and they took all the feedback from them and came up with this product. Very often in this situation, if you're wanting to, up until now, if you're wanting to work with a multi-zone situation, you'd use our M9000 mixer with various modules, paired with a DA power amplifier, our DA series, maybe the DA-250FH, and as well our ZM wall controls that you could use, and it works fantastic. But there was some feedback, and some of the feedback was our customers wanted an all-in-one solution. They wanted one box. They wanted an amplifier and a mixer and DSP all in one. They were looking for an easy setup, be able to get in, do the install, set up the multi-channel matrix system, and without too many hold-ups. And they didn't want to have a laptop necessary to do the setup. You know, many of you out there may have a customer who is a chain, maybe a restaurant chain. You may be working with a retail chain, and that means that you're in one part of the country, but the chain is asking you to do an install in another part. So that means you're subbing out the work to some reliable guys across the country, but those guys may not be super computer literate, and that can equal a painful installation far away. I've been there, I know all about that. So taking the laptop out of the equation makes things a little easier. So let's look at what we have here as a general overview. We have an all-in-one solution for multi-zone applications. We have a 6x4 audio matrix, DSP, and a 4-channel Class D amplifier all in one box. Each output, you can set the DSP individually as you need them in each zone, and they can select their own source from the different sources that you're running into it. There are 4 independent line inputs as well as 2 priority inputs. If we look a little more in detail, each input you can adjust the level, you can assign even restriction settings. Maybe you don't want to hear paging microphone in the dining area, of course. Maybe you can send what you need to send to different zones, so there's lots of options there. The priority inputs, you can have different levels for paging. You can include, so you could have a microphone for paging in a restaurant situation again. If it's a retail situation, maybe you want to be using our EV20 or our EV700 message repeater, playing advertisements throughout the day to the different shoppers. Maybe something's going on, and it can be in just one zone or throughout the entire store. That's an option as well. Each of these priorities has input level, mute sensitivity, mute hold time adjustments, so there's lots of different things that you can work with there. Each output channel is 250 watts. It's a 4-channel amp, very similar to our DA series amplifier. It's Class D, 70 volt or 100 volt. And you can, as I said before, adjust the DSP in each area. What kind of DSP? What are we talking about? Generally cues like sound loudness curves, There are TOA specific speaker presets that are preloaded. High-pass filters to protect your connected speakers, crossover settings that can be used with subwoofers if you have them in your system. There's an auxiliary line output on each output channel to deliver audio to other systems. So, for instance, this has happened to me before, working on a restaurant. You've got the restaurant set up 4 zones, dining, bar, patio, and maybe the 4th you're using for your subwoofers. Well, the customer comes up to you and says, well, you know what, I forgot. We want to have speakers outside at the front door. We want the customer experience to start as they're leaving their cars and walking towards it. We want a certain energy. Well, fine. So you know what you can do? You can take a line out of the channel that you've used for the patio, run it to a smaller power amplifier, maybe a BA260, and have music at the front door. Different options like that. So there's no PC programming needed for this. It's very hands-on. There's not a lot of issues that you're going to have with setting the DSP. You'll notice if you look on the back, we're going to see it later, there is a LAN connection. That's only for maintenance and for the factory use. This is not a network amplifier. It's very easy to use, very straightforward. Wall remotes, remote controls. The WP700 connected by a Cat5 and runs straight back to the MA-725 matrix amplifier. It can select a source and control the volume. This amplifier also has various protection features like current protection, high temperature protection, if there's a short circuit of speaker lines, all sorts of different things that this amplifier has to protect itself. As well, reduced power consumption, that can't hurt either. This is a flow chart of how the signal runs through the MA-725. I just wanted to go over that with everyone. Here's our inputs, 4 channels. So you could have in a restaurant situation, again, background music, maybe TV sound, anything that you want to run. Maybe there's different music in different parts of the building. You can run that through there. This is the selector. On the front face, you're going to see later that you're able to select the input that you would like to listen to. Here are the priority ins. So you could have a microphone for paging, and you could have a message repeater. This is where they come into play. Set your individual DSP for each channel, set the volume, and run it out to your speaker lines. This is where the line out comes in the whole flow of things. This is where the line out comes out, so that if you needed to run out to a separate, smaller power amp. Here's your music on hold out. It's also able to do that. And both of these, both the selection of the input and the volume control, are able to be accessed by the remotes. As far as DSP goes, there are 64 presets that are available for each channel. And how do we go about doing this? With the help of a dip switch, there are 4 banks, and in each bank there are 16 presets. Select your bank using the dip switch, then using the rotary switch, select the preset that you're interested in. So for instance, here's a preset right here. This is in bank 1, preset 2. If you were interested in setting loudness, this might work for the zone that you're working on. I also mentioned that there were specific presets for different TOA speakers. So if we happen to be using HX5s, for instance, in our setup, there is an HX5 preset, and you can just dial that up for channel 2, if that's where they are. Here's the front panel. This is the signal indicator for the priority inputs. Here's the indicators for the inputs themselves. If a priority message is being played in a particular zone, it would show up here, either priority 1 or 2. These green LEDs would light up to let you know that that's happening. This is an important LED because if your setup is using remotes, this little light is yellow and it should be on. If this is not on, you might have an issue there, so you might have a loose connection. It lets you know what's happening in that zone. These are the different inputs that you can select. Those are push buttons, and you can select on the front face which input you would like, but if you're using a remote, you would select it from the remote. These indicators show signal, but also show peak, might be clipping. It's a warning light, and then a light you don't really want to see is a protect LED there as well, but it's good for troubleshooting. And of course, this is our level control. Here's the back panel. These are the speaker outs, the 4 different channels. And these are the remotes. You can see they just run straight back, click in the back with an RJ45 connector. Nothing fancy. We'll talk about that a bit more in a few minutes. This is that line out. So you can, and their line out, so it would be 1 RCA it's running in mono, so you would run that out to your your exterior power amp. Here's our inputs. So in this setup, they've got 2 CD players and an MP3 player, and then they've got 1 empty. So if you wanted to hear TV sound, you'd run the RCAs out of your Rogers or Shaw box and put it into input 4 here. Here are our priority inputs. You can see that there are 2 microphones in this particular setup, 2 different type of microphones. The priority 2 looks a lot like our PM660U, which has a push button incorporated in the base because it's a desk mic. But priority 1 is using possibly a wireless mic, and so there's an external push button that would be required in order to make use of that. Push it while you want to talk and then let it go. Here's our DSP section. High pass filters, the dip switches I was talking about, all of that can be set right here. There's our music on hold. And here's our remote. This is a close-up of the WP700. Just a note, this particular remote can only be used with the MA line. So we have ZM wall controls. They can be used with our M9000, our A9000, the MA64 products. But this particular remote is used specifically for the MA line of products. You can adjust the volume and select your input. And it's easy to mount a single gang electrical box, no problem. If you're familiar with the ZM line of remotes, or wall remotes, you'll know that wiring with them is a little more involved. It would include running a Cat5 through into the ZM remote and then out, and then you're daisy chaining up to 4 different remotes and you can only go up to a total of 800 feet of Cat5 cable. So that requires a little bit more thought, a little bit more time to think about where you're going to be putting those ZM remotes, how you're going to be wiring it, etc., because they have to be connected. You have to designate there's a rotary switch on the side of every ZM wall control that would designate which control is which. So this is control 1, control 2, etc. So none of that is involved or included in this. It's an RJ45 in and an RJ45 running back and clicking in the back of the amplifier, one straight home run cable. So that makes it so much easier when you're looking for a quick install. Oh, one point. When these are included, when these are being used, all the controls for volume, like level control as well as input selection, that's all defeated at the front panel. So once these are in, that's where you control it from. Skip the slide. Hey, there we go. So where can we put this? So many different places. I've talked about restaurants and bars, retail, supermarkets would be great. There's the sales floor. There's the back of the house where all the staff are working. There's the offices upstairs where the store manager is sitting, and the different offices up there. You may even want outside music, outside and paging. That would be fantastic for a supermarket. Hotels, meeting rooms, lobbies, conference rooms. In hotels, I want to make a point too. The ZM controllers can be used to change scenes. And so if you're working in a hotel, I remember this from personal experience, if you're working with a hotel and there's a banquet hall where you're going to be having walls moving, and so different scenes, that means the rooms are going to get smaller or they're going to be combined or something. If you need that, then you need to use the ZM controllers and the M9000 or something like that. In this case, this is purely for a room that has static walls, nothing's going to be changing, and then you can select your inputs, but there's no room combining or anything that's able to be controlled with these WP700 controllers. Conference rooms, these would be great. I've worked in certain situations where if you have a conference room that's open, maybe even in a hotel or in an office complex, and the people that are using the room want to bring in their own audio, they want to play the audio off their laptop, they want to, I don't know, play the audio off their iPhone, you could put next to the WP700 wall control, you could put a wall plate, and they could plug in there, and that could be one of your inputs that they're able to select from. So there's all sorts of different applications for the MA-725. This is a product that's going to be coming next. It's the MM700F. So it's exactly the same as the MA-725, but no power amplifier included. It's just the matrix, mixer, and the DSP. Now, why would I want that? If your project involves a large room where you're going to need a lot of power, if you're using our HX7 series of line arrays and you need a lot of power, maybe and a low impedance at that, and you want to, it comes with a sub. Well, you can't use the 70 volt version, so you'd use all the good stuff and then match up an amplifier like our DA500 or our DA550 that will give you the power that you need. Or maybe power is not an issue, or maybe power is an issue because you need a lot less. You could put together a bunch of our little power amplifiers, the BA235, the BA260, and have and work with that and have all the great stuff that the matrix and the DSP provide in a lower power situation. And that's the flow of the mixer. You can see there's no amplifier there. It's just line out. So where does the MA-725 land amongst our other amplifier, mixer amplifiers, and where does it belong? Well, you'll notice that this group here, they're all single channel. There's one from the A9000 group, the A9240 SM2. So that's single channel. The rest are multi-channel, multi-zone. You're able to use them in that scenario. This group, there's no DSP. They're just mixer amps. This group has DSP and remote options. The A5000 that you see there, as you're well aware, I'm sure that you've heard about the A5000. It does come with DSP, so it should be part of that purple circle there. It's single channel, but it does have DSP. So that puts our MA-725 right about here.